Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am shooting this at 9 in the morning, but I meant to say, hey, I'm extra frilly right now because today we're talking about the money lies told to women. Obviously, these points could include men watching as well, but in general, these are lies told directly or indirectly about how women should handle their money. I feel like all of us as women have heard some of these lies at least once, sometime in our life, but I feel like the tide is turning. And as we bring more awareness towards like disparities and of how people talk to men and women differently about money, and the community that a lot of us are building as women towards becoming more financially independent, I think the storyline is going to change a little bit over the next couple years. There's a movement of people, of women, wanting to take financial control of their life. You know, they're not afraid to ask for that raise. They're not afraid to talk about debt. They are financially prepared for any type of situation that may surprise them. And I feel like this movement is actually led by women. We obviously still have a long way to go. Women still make less than men. And if you are a woman of color, you make even less. And what happens when women make less money? Those businesses we want to start aren't launching. We're staying in abusive, unhealthy relationships. We are not able to fulfill our dreams. However, I think the generation of us struggling with student loan debt is starting to realize that there is a better way, and we are pushing forward. You know, there's a lot of things that are out of our control. You know, it's out of our hands. But I feel like one thing that we can control, have full control over, is how we talk to women about money and how we talk about women and money. This video is sponsored by Varo Bank. And if you take just one quick look at Varo Bank's website, varomoney.com, I think you can tell immediately how they champion inclusivity, and that is why I am just more than happy to work with them. So as I go through my list, I want you to think of kind of like an overarching question. How can you empower yourself and your finances with a bank that works with and for you? Okay? So let's just get started on my list, the 4 money lies that women are told. The first one is we're not good with money and we don't care to learn about money. I know a lot of women who grew up in households where either the father took care of the finances or they were excluded from financial conversations, whereas, you know, if they had a brother, they were included, or their family just, you know, didn't talk about money in general. And when you learn by what you see, and what you see is that men are the only ones that handle money, then you subconsciously believe that that's not your place. You know, even though it's very obvious in this community that women are taking charge of their finances and want to change their financial destiny, the reality is that the majority of women still don't know what's happening in their household financially. 54% of millennials still let their partner handle long-term financial decisions, while 26% of men still believe that women should not be concerned with financial decisions, period. But if there's any type of, you know, silver lining towards the pandemic, is now more people are waking up, and 8 in 10 women are really wanting to have those conversations with their partner about their money. You know, I know it's really easy to stay in our little YouTube bubble where all we do is talk about money and debt and student loans and struggling and how to make more money and side hustles and all of that. But it is important to remember that there is still a larger majority of women who don't believe that they need to be concerned with their finances. So what can we do to change that narrative and inspire more women to talk about this? Well, first of all, continue to be open. Continue to share your stories of how you're feeling, where you're at financially, your successes, your failures, your inspirations. Talk about your income, talk about your debt, talk about your wants and needs financially, because what that's gonna do is it's gonna open the conversation up and make the talk of finances and money and debt less taboo. And it's also important to bank with institutions that work for all of us. Varo Bank puts you in charge of everyday banking by being mobile, fee-free, and offering early direct deposit. The biggest thing next to taking control of your money is putting your money with a bank that doesn't take advantage of you. Plus, approximately half of Varo's leadership is women, and that is really important because when you have diversity in the boardroom, that inspires innovation. Now, the second lie that we have been told as women, something that I have experienced on my very own channel, is that women spend frivolously. The whole thing of you can't buy a house because you buy too many lattes, or you can't get out of debt because you eat too many avocado toasts and brunch all the time. Even if I bought a $6 drink every day for the next 365 days, that's only like $2,000, and last time I checked, you can't buy a house for $2,000. And yes, while that money could have been used to, build up my emergency fund or pay off a little of my debt, the idea that I'm still paying rent because I'm choosing to buy a coffee is just, it's beyond my comprehension. And while this could seem like an attack on the millennial, this is very much targeted at women. I just saw a statistic actually. 65% of money articles aimed at women advised them to restrict spending and control shopping splurges. While on the other hand, men are urged to invest and spend to achieve their power instead. I mean, this happened to me early on in my debt-free journey. If you go back to some of my earlier budget videos, some of y'all hated the fact that I was saving money every month while still being in debt to pay for facials. And I get it, it's not a necessity, but there are people out there, men out there spending money on, expensive watches. And if I want a facial and I can afford it and I can budget for it, then I don't see what the problem is. This actually has a name. It's called the grooming gap. What it costs us as women to look the part. It's part of like a greater understanding of how the patriarchy affects women. So how do we change that narrative? Well, the first thing is you gotta stop believing the headlines. Do not be made to feel guilty over something that you decide to buy with your money. But how do we continue to buy those quote unquote frivolous things that we as women want, whether it is like me, it's a facial, or maybe for you, it's a latte, or maybe for someone else, it's a bag or a pair of shoes. How do we do that responsibly? And the answer is to budget. The reason why I was able to spend on something frivolously while still paying off debt, while still saving up for retirement, while still saving up for a down payment, is because I knew exactly how much money I had to spend on things that I wanted versus I needed, and I made sacrifices in other places. So for me, I would absolutely spend money on a facial every single day, but I don't buy new clothes, which is why I've probably worn this for like the 5th time. Another way is to stay up to date on what exactly is in your accounts. I mean, there is a time where I wouldn't look at my bank account at all, like for months, because I was so scared to see it. But now I like to check in on it every day just to make sure that my money is where it needs to be and ain't no one stealing it from me. Having quick and easy access to your banking app allows you to do this. And financial institutions like Varo Bank offer budgeting features that allow you to make sure that you stay up to date on your financial goals. The third lie women are told is that we have to compete amongst one another to win. We see this all the time. When we're younger, we have to compete with one another for the affection of men. When we're older, we have to compete with one another for the only spot at the table at work. Female CEOs are at an all-time high, but that's still only 8%. I work from home for myself, by myself, so I can't speak to this directly, but I have heard many stories from my girlfriends who work in corporate who just have the worst stories of being pitted against each other as women for job opportunities or promotions. And what happens there is that the narrative of women are difficult to work with starts. And when we do finally succeed, and not only maybe at the expense of another woman, but our successes are more likely to be contributed to men. For me, when I became debt-free, I had a lot of comments of people saying that I was able to do that because my boyfriend or my dad supports me. It didn't even occur to anyone or those people that I was able to do that, accomplish that on my own. Or now that I'm a high income earner, it's just because I'm a YouTuber. And somehow that, what I do for work, devalues my worth. And I'm pretty sure there is no man on YouTube that has to defend their monetary value in their comment section. 4, the myth that I have trying to do for years and have finally realized that it is a myth is that women have to achieve a work-life balance. You know, we already have to work harder than our male counterparts. We already have to fight the stigma of being a difficult person to work with when we do reach, you know, levels that we want to be at. But now we have to be the perfect woman in every sense of the word. It would be impossible to find an article that not only tells men how to be a success in the boardroom, how to look the part, but how to get home early enough to make the kids dinner, how to be a passionate lover for your partner, how to do your 10-step skincare routine before getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, while also drinking 2 liters of water every day and waking up early enough to go to Pilates or spin class. And if we're being honest here, I have been part of that problem. I definitely subscribed to the idea that I need to somehow find, you know, a work-life balance. I mean, that was basically my whole Q1 goal, is to try to find a way to balance everything that I have to do while also kind of still showing up to my life and my relationship and being a dog parent. The reality is that it is impossible. You can do everything, but something will have to be put on the back burner. And as women, that something tends to be us. Instead of asking ourselves how we can have it all, we need to start asking ourselves, why are we being pressured to have it all? Each of the points that I talked about, the 4 points that I just mentioned, tells us that the reason why women have trouble with money is because we are women. Because we either have some fundamental shortfall that prevents us from being good at finances, or because we can't be trusted, we overspend, or we're just incapable of earning more money. I think it's important to think about where our unhealthy thoughts about money and work come from, and how we can feel empowered to change those gender biases. Again, thank you so much to Varo Bank for prompting these questions. You know, being financially empowered begins with putting your money in a bank that works for you. So those are the 4 money lies told to and about women. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts and stories to share in the comment section. And of course, this was just the list that I came up with. But if you have anything to add about your personal experiences, please let us know in the comment section. The only way that we can kind of combat this and change our narrative is to share our stories and just make it more aware of what we as women see and hear and go through financially, and also in the workplace. Okay? I'm Aisha Dang. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week. Bye.